Hello, and welcome to episode 26 of the Great Canadian Hockey Podcast. On behalf of myself and my co-host Aiden Sarah, I'm really excited for this one, honestly. We're coming back to having a guest for the first time forever. Aiden, you want to kind of break down what we have coming?
Hey everybody. Thanks for tuning in on this. Hopefully you're listening to it on a Friday morning. If you're listening to it, anytime after, still thank you. You're just not one of the first ones.
And if you're not first, you're last.
I'm surprised Talladega Nights didn't make it into our favorite movies last episode, because that one's up there. If you're strictly talking comedies, for me, it's a top 5.
That one's actually not in my top 5. Not even close. I like the movie. It's not one of my favorite comedies. All right, we found a breaking point.
Before we get too sidetracked, today's episode is, so it's going to be part 1 of our mock draft. We have our friend Jeremi. He's a scout for McKeen's Hockey. He scouts the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, and he runs the Instagram account at prospects_report. He does a ton of stuff with the draft class. He's been very, very involved with reporting on it, and he's got a lot of great insights. So what James and I have done is created our own mock draft, picks 1 through 32, and we've asked Jeremi to do his as well. The criteria for the mock draft is not who we think is going to be taken at each pick. It's not who we think the best players are ranked. Rather, it is who would we pick as those teams in that spot with the players available. So it's just us basically saying, if I was the general manager of the Colorado Avalanche at 27, I'd pick this player, and we do the whole thing. It's going to be split up into a part 1 and part 2. So what you're going to hear today is the first 14 picks. That's just kind of where we cut it off in terms of timing. So you're going to hear the first 14 picks for each of us, and then early next week, probably on Tuesday, the way things are looking right now, you'll be able to hear picks 15 through 32. So that'll complete the first round of the mock draft. Jeremy was a ton of fun to have on. I'll obviously thank him in advance, and we do thank him at the end of the episode as well.
Yeah, a few times.
Yeah, but he was that good of a guest. So, tune in. We're just going to quickly run through a couple things of hockey news as of right now. 3 things, really. The Calgary Flames is number 1. Frank Saravalli dropping a few bombs, James. Noah Hannafin, Elias Lindholm, Mikhail Backlund, Tyler Toffoli all look to at least potentially be on the outs.
Yeah, and you look at it, and it's just change of management, change of coach. Nothing really worked well last year. All of these guys are on expiring deals. It's the kind of thing where things are hitting the point of needing to change. And I kind of want to just have a little bit of fun with this one, because these guys have some value. And you look at the fact that they still have a couple core players in Huberdeau, Rasmus Andersson, Nazem Kadri there. You talk about Jacob Markstrom for now. I mean, a lot of these guys could eventually be transitioned out, but there's some term specifically in Huberdeau and Kadri. But yeah, I just kind of want to have some fun with this, and I want to go through those 4 players that are rumored to be available, because those are all pretty decently valued players. And I just want to think, okay, what's a team that would make sense? And what is a return that would make sense? So Aiden, let's start things off with Noah Hannafin.
For Hannafin, I like him going to Buffalo. Probably, if I'm going to be honest with you, my fit with Hannafin and the Sabres more aligns with him going there as an unrestricted free agent after the end of the 23-24 season when he becomes a UFA, because realistically, if you're looking at a trade between the Buffalo Sabres and the Calgary Flames, they're 2 teams in similar spots. They're 2 teams that last year were bubble playoff teams that want to be playoff teams. They're 2 teams that, obviously, if you have the option, you want to have good players that are on the younger side. So for the Buffalo Sabres, anything the Calgary Flames are going to ask for in return for Noah Hannafin is going to be things that you're not going to want to give up, because you both need them, basically, right? You're both in the same spot in your organization. Calgary maybe a little bit more on the downswing, Buffalo on the upswing, but when it comes to you're a bubble playoff team, they're both in that category. So as much as I like the idea of Hannafin being the 4th on a back end with Dahlin, Power, and Samuelson, I don't really know if a trade would be the best fit for it. If there is a trade in the works, we'll see what it ends up being for. For the Buffalo Sabres, you have a lot of prospects. You have a lot of good young players. Question is just going to be, A, who do you want to give up out of that core? And then B, who would Calgary realistically take in return? Don't forget as well, Buffalo has pick 13 to work with in the upcoming draft.
Definitely. I think for Noah Hannafin, the first thing that jumps to me is those two green teams, right? And that sounds kind of corny, but I'm talking about Dallas and Minnesota. I could see both of those teams having a clear need for Noah Hannafin. The guy is realistically like a number 2D in my eyes. He can munch minutes. He's dependable at all ends of the ice. He has a little bit of offensive creativity. He's a solid first pass. He's kind of what you're hoping for if you're trying to round out your decor, and you maybe have a solid second pair and you have a top guy, or you have a top guy and a solid third pair, but you just need to round things out. So I look at Dallas, and really past Miro Heiskanen, they're having some troubles in the playoffs, and I'm a fan of some of the defensemen they have outside of Heiskanen, but you look at what Dallas could offer, and I think they have a ton of draft picks. You look at a guy like Ty Dellandrea and maybe a draft pick or two, that seems like a solid return. I'm talking probably like a first round pick, or a combination of a couple seconds. I don't know. I think they would want a first round pick in return, considering, I mean, the guy's in his prime. He's a very solid defenseman. So I think Ty Dellandrea at first makes a lot of sense to me. But Minnesota, I'm a little more unsure of how it would work with their buyout cap situation and what prospects they actually have they could move. But I think just the fit is there with the style of player and what holes they have.
Yeah, Dallas doesn't have a first rounder this year, so the pick wouldn't be for this season if they were to trade it. I like the fit for both Dallas and Minnesota. I definitely think it fits a need in a big way. Moving on kind of to Elias Lindholm, I think we've talked about it. Boston has to be the obvious answer, and then again we're going to come back around to what is Calgary going to look for in return versus what is Boston willing to give up. I do think the Bruins have the ability to kind of put together a Jack Eichel-esque trade package, that being a good established player in the lineup, a solid prospect, and a first-round pick. I think that would be the return for Lindholm. Think maybe in the, maybe on the beat of, and maybe not a player like Krebs. Maybe instead of a player like Krebs, you go like, as much as I know Jake DeBrusk just had a good year, maybe a DeBrusk, a Brandon Carlo, fourth-round pick for Elias Lindholm. What do you think?
I don't want it if I'm Calgary.
No.
That doesn't move the needle for me if I'm Calgary. I think I'd rather assets that retain some real value. I think I want a good draft pick. I think I want a good young player. I think I want a good prospect. Like one of those things. I'm not talking the multiples, because then you just throw in a complimentary item to make it look prettier. When teams just add a fourth rounder, it looks like more assets. But yeah, it's I'm not a huge fan of that. I feel like Calgary is going to get a better return from Lindholm elsewhere. Maybe I'm just selfishly saying that because I want Lindholm in Colorado badly, like more than life itself. But yeah, I think I feel like a little bit more. And then also, I don't know if Boston wants to get rid of a Brandon Carlo.
Yeah, and the Lindholm to Boston definitely fits the need. Colorado, obviously, as well. That would kind of be the perfect second line center to Nathan MacKinnon. And don't forget, in the argument against what I just said, they kind of went down that road with player pick or player prospect pick with a Matthew Tkachuk trade. They got Huberto Uyghur, a first, and Schwint, and it didn't end up really working for them, obviously, right? Like, it just, the return that looked very strong in the summer, the performances of those players didn't jive. But the other thing you have to consider, too, is the Calgary Flames are coming at this from a position of no leverage, right? These guys are walking. Everybody knows these guys are walking, and if the Flames don't make the trade, they're losing them for nothing. So, that doesn't really benefit Calgary all that much. But kind of moving on from Lindholm, let's go Toffoli. I think Tyler Toffoli, of these, there's four players. I think Hannafin and Lindholm both have the most value. Backlund and Toffoli will have a little bit less, but Tyler Toffoli just had a 73-point season. So I do think there's going to be some serious takers. Where do you see him as a fit?
If I'm a team looking at Tyler Toffoli, I think I'm one of those teams that really desperately needs an extra impact scorer. I think a Columbus that gave up Oliver Bjorkstrand, I think that's a big one. And they've been tossing assets around, filling out their decor. But if I'm Columbus, I really want Tyler Toffoli. I really want to fill that out. Yes, they desperately need a center. But you know what? They also need a Tyler Toffoli to play with a Kent Johnson or a Cole Sillinger and really help these guys out.
Well, don't forget the Columbus Blue Jackets are going to get Leo Carlsson in this draft. So all of a sudden you have the first line, Gaudreau, Carlson, and Laine, and the second line of Kent Johnson with anybody you want, right? You're filling out that second line. You've got Tyler Toffoli there if you want to put Tyler Toffoli there. So, yeah, I do think that makes sense for Columbus. For Michael Backlund, I think this is the guy that actually will have the most teams lining up for him, for the sole reason being he's going to come at the cheapest in terms of the return. And what team couldn't use a good third line center for a playoff run, right? This is probably, of the three, the most likely guy to be retained and then traded as a rental. I don't see anybody trading for Hanifin or Lindholm if they don't intend or don't have the facilities to re-sign those players. I could definitely see Michael Backlund getting picked up by a cup contending team at the trade deadline to help supplement a run. I actually do look at the Colorado Avalanche again as a good fit for Michael Backlund. Middle six centerman that can really support the second power play unit and can kill penalties might be perfect for them. We'll see what other moves they make in the offseason and during the season, but if their roster looks something close to it does now come March, I think a deadline pickup for Michael Backlund is really a smart idea for them.
You know what? Give them a bunch of assets. Give us Backlund and Lindholm.
Yeah, I always kind of have that in my head whenever I want two players from the same team. Give them the sun and the moon, and obviously it's not going to happen, but it's fun to hope. Okay, so we have a Hall of Fame class of 2023. Way back when we had Sportsnet's Ben Bazran on. Shout out Ben. We went through different Hall of Fame candidates. Now, I did not research and do not remember exactly what we said. I do think we had Henrik Lundqvist on the ballot as a Hall of Famer. And indeed he is. He is inducted alongside Tom Barrasso and Mike Vernon, three goaltenders inducted in this class. Other than him, Pierre Turgeon and Caroline Ouellette selected as players, Ken Hitchcock and Pierre Lacroix as builders. Lacroix. Now, James, I love the Turgeon pick. Way overdue. We talked about it at the time. There's no scenario where Alexander McGillney shouldn't have got in here. And it's disappointing. Mike Vernon was a great goaltender, but in his career, he had a save percentage below 900. And for McGillney to get beaten in this situation, it's disappointing for sure.
To me, Mike Vernon's not the least Hall of Fame worthy player in that class because you bring up the save percentage, but if you go back to that era, a lot of those goalies have way lower save percentages. That's just the thing. That's so many more guys were putting up a ton of points. Save percentages were down. It was what it was. He has 2 Stanley Cups as a starting goalie and a Conn Smythe. And he had racked up a ton of wins. To me, if Luongo got in, Mike Vernon is a shoo-in.
Yeah, Luongo's step up over Vernon would have been the best on best acumen. And that really would have been it. I totally see the argument. I'm not saying I'm sitting here ruining it. It's more just, again,
McGillney should be in.
Yeah, and so for that reason, every single player that gets inducted into the Hall of Fame, I'm going to look through the lens of should they have beat McGillney. And if the answer is no, then they shouldn't have been there yet, right? Alexander McGillney, stats alone should be in there. We talked about it, but what he did in terms of, leaving Russia, leaving the Soviet Union at a time where it was very risky and very hard to do so to come carve out a professional hockey career in North America, he's a trailblazer, and for that alone, he deserves it.
I completely agree, man. All you had to do was go on any form of social media, and it was packed full of articles just saying, why isn't this guy in? He deserves it so much. And there was that one story I saw. I can't remember which coach. I want to say it was Mike Keenan, was trying to rip him apart and trying to scare him. And he goes, they threatened my family while I escaped a country. You can't scare me. He's just, oh, okay. All right. That's pretty serious. This is a game.
All right, so we will have Jeremy up in just a couple minutes. Stay tuned. But we did want to answer your questions. We had the post on the Instagram. We're going to go to the Spotify first. We got one submission in on the Spotify. So, James, I'll turn it to you to rattle this off for us. Let's go.
So we were asked, in both of our opinions, who is the best player turned coach/manager in hockey? And Aiden and I were discussing this question before we started recording, And I think that it's not in my eyes, it's not the best player that became a coach or manager. It's the player who best did that transition and had a coach or had a career as a coach or manager after. Because if it were the other way around, we could just say Wayne Gretzky because he was a coach. Wow, cool. But I think diving a little bit deeper on that one's a little more fun. For me, I look at for manager, it's probably either Steve Yzerman or Sakic in a modern capacity. But then if you look back about 20 years, Serge Savard had a crazy good career as a GM between 20 and 35 years ago. You just look at what he put together and what he did as a GM, both in Montreal and Dallas. There might have been somewhere else, but I believe it was Montreal and Dallas. And that's pretty impressive. And then in terms of the modern player turned coach, Rod Brindamore. Rod Brindamore is that guy. I mean, you want to see him win a cup as a coach to actually cement that, but he's definitely the best modern example for me.
Yeah, and I did think Yzerman. That did cross my mind. The other thing too that I was gonna say, like you have kind of the difficult question of like, oh, like what are you judging it on, right? We kind of talked about that. If we're judging it on both, yeah, Yzerman, Sakic. You talked about Savard. But for instance, Scotty Bowman's widely considered the best coach of all time. Scotty Bowman didn't have an NHL career. He was a hockey player, played high level junior, never made it to the NHL, and then quickly became a head coach after his junior career ended in the junior levels, and eventually worked his way up to the NHL. So again, that's another caveat. Well, Scotty Bowman technically played hockey, technically had a hockey career. He's the greatest coach of all time. Does that make him the answer to the question? Yes or no? But yeah, I agree with what James said. Yzerman and Sakic are good picks. We'll go quickly to the Instagram. I know we only threw this up yesterday, but we got a couple submissions. We have one specifically targeted at our favorite teams. Free agents that we want Vancouver, for me obviously, and Colorado for you to sign, and why. Do you want to start us off with the Avalanche?
Yeah, I'm going to give you an unrealistic one and a realistic one. I really want Ryan O'Reilly. It's not going to happen. He's not coming back to Colorado. If I look at actually realistic ones, I could say I want JT Compher coming back, but he probably priced himself out of Colorado. He's going to get paid somewhere, and I'm happy for him. Actual free agents, the center market is very, very thin. It's not phenomenal. I think I really, really, really want Ivan Barbashev, but he's so expensive. It's really tough. So, yeah, I want Ivan Barbashev. That's what I want.
I would say Carson Soucy. The Vancouver Canucks just bought out Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Leaves a hole in that left side that you can fill with somebody way better than him. Why don't you do it? Soucy had a great year in Seattle as a 5. I think he has the ability to be a top 4 defenseman, and I think Vancouver will give him that chance. Lastly, we have if you could be any animal, what would it be and why? That's our last question of the week.
Do birds count as animals?
Yeah.
Okay, that was a dumb question for me to ask because I'm afraid of heights and I don't do well with high speeds or momentum, so I'm not going to be a bird. I really enjoy having some kind of cat-like reflexes, but I don't want to be like a leopard or something like that. I think I'd enjoy being a jaguar or a tiger. I think that's definitely the most appealing.
I haven't ever thought about this, and I don't know what I'm going to say right now. Like, dogs are loved, and I love. So that's obviously up there. I do just, every time I drive past like a field and there's just cows there, I always just look at the cows and I'm like, do you like ever worry? I just envy that level of carefreeness that cows always seem to have. Their vibe is always very laid back, and I do envy that. I feel like I need a more creative answer than that, though. My favorite animals have always been penguins. They always look like they're enjoying themselves. Like,
can I switch mine to penguin?
Yeah, They always look like they're having a good time no matter what. Other than the ones that are like getting eaten by predators. So I think I would have to say penguin, just because I envy to be that that visibly elated all the time, just waddling through the ice. That just seems like so much fun. And I run hot, right? I'm always sweaty, so getting to live somewhere cold, I don't mind that at all.
I'm really on board with that one. And also, one of my favorite movies is Surf's Up. So, in theory, penguins can surf.
And sing.
And sing.
Happy Feet.
Happy Feet is not even close to Surf's Up, and I will hold that till the end of time.
All right. Without further ado.
Oh, actually, can I change my free agent answer?
Sure.
Alex Killorn.
Good one. Yeah, I like that. He's had a great season. I think you're paying more for him now than you ever would or should, is the only thing. Like, he's not going to have this season ever again. He never had this season before, right? So you're paying him at the peak of his powers. And if he has peaked, he will now proceed to come down from it. Anyways, without further ado, Jeremi gave us a ton of his time, and by a ton of his time, I mean close to like 3.5 hours today. So we're going to introduce him. We're going to get him on. We'll do picks 1 to 14 for you here on this Friday, June 23rd. And really quickly, before we forget, happy birthday, James.
Thank you. Yeah, my birthday is Saturday, June 24th. That will, I guess the podcast will have been fully out by then. And I'm going up to Whistler with a bunch of my friends. Aiden, you got to come next time.
You got to invite me next time.
Okay, yeah, true.
I'll throw the ball back in your court.
Okay, yeah, fair. We're just gonna go up there. All of my buddies that I went to high school with, grew up in my hometown with, and then my friend John, who's he's only 31, but we always make this joke that he's 47. And for some reason, people always give us free stuff because he's 47. And they believe it, even though he looks debatably the same age as me.
I want to just see that work. Anyways, Jeremi was awesome, so we're not going to waste any more time before we get to him. Here he is.
So today we've got a special guest. It's draft season here now. So yeah, we've got our buddy Jeremi coming over from McKean's. Jeremi, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Jeremy. I'm from Montreal. I speak French, so maybe that's why you'll hear a little accent. But yeah, I've been scouting a lot these past 2 years. Really got into the scouting world. I've been lucky to work for McKean's this year. I've learned a lot of stuff throughout those 2 years, and yeah, aside from that, I obviously love hockey. Big Habs and Tampa Bay guy. I also love a bunch of sports, skiing and badminton also. So yeah, sports is a big thing in my life. And I'm going to law university next year. So that's about it.
So first things first, I just want to ask, like, how did you get involved in there with McKean's? Like, what does that path look like? Were you a big fan of their work going in?
Right. Well, one of my good friends used to work there, and then got an opportunity in the Q League for the Moncton Wildcats. So now he's a scout over there. And unfortunately, he didn't have time to do both McKean's and to work for Moncton. So he recommended me to McKean's. He got me that spot. I was very lucky. But yeah, usually I've got some friends that also just apply everywhere, right? You find those emails online. You just show what you're capable of writing, the kind of stuff you can do, and you just email them. But I was lucky that my friend used to work there. So that's how I got in.
Jeremy, man, my first 4 jobs in broadcasting were all kind of like that, just following people I knew that left the spot. So, hey, if you can pave your path like that, that's perfect. And well, I was gonna say it's pretty cool to hear it's scouting for now, and then it's law school. Like that's gonna be a huge jump. I know you and I have talked off the podcast, and your dream is staying in hockey long enough to use your law degree to be an agent or something, right?
For sure. There's a lot of people in every organization, whether it's hockey, just other sports, that use their law background to get a good spot in the organization. So that's really my plan. I'm I want to study law and then get to a point where I've got a good enough career, good enough background to maybe try to get a spot in an organization, whether it's in the scouting world or just like a higher spot. Anything I'd for sure love.
Well, hey man, you're a Bolts fan, and John Cooper was a lawyer, so I guess that's the highest benchmark, I'd say.
For sure.
Well, awesome. So as we've kind of mentioned here, it's almost draft season. We're getting close here, and this is gonna be one of the most exciting drafts in recent memory when we all really think down to it. And I know one of the best things McKeen's has done over the years is put together these draft ranking lists, these mock drafts, everything like that, and give people some awesome info. And Aiden, I'm not sure, how do you want to break it down here? How do you want to break it down for our listeners so we can kind of best suit it to everyone?
Well, I would say let's just go pick by pick. We'll have the Great Canadian Hockey Podcast. We'll have me and James's mock draft, and then we'll have Jeremy's mock draft on the other side, and we'll each kind of explain our picks. I imagine number one is going to be consensus, so I guess let's start there. Jeremy, is there anything that hasn't been said about Connor Bedard to Chicago that we can add? Because I really don't think there is.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, he's gotten all the spotlight for a couple of years now, and it's very well deserved. He's definitely the best prospect I've ever seen in my life. There's almost nothing he can't do on the ice.
So another thing I was going to ask you, Jeremy, I have at least a couple for each player that I have in mind. One of the things James and I did this year is whenever living in Red Deer, whenever a draft eligible dub prospect would come through, I try and get to go to the game and just watch him. And I would come back with a scouting report and I'd have the player comparables, right? So for Connor Bedard, I have down, and again, like you said, it's the best prospect you've ever seen. So these comparables, fingers crossed, he blows these guys out of the water. But I have somewhere between an Austin Matthews and a David Pastrnak. Is there anybody else you would throw in just to supplement that?
Well, those are two very accurate comparisons. Obviously a lot of people just compare him to McDavid because he's the best player since McDavid. I think there's some similarities, but they're definitely not a close comparable. Like McDavid is just a much more better skater in so many different facets, and it's not a knock to Connor Bedard's skating. It's just that, like, how can you compare with McDavid, right? McDavid creates anything he wants with speed, while Bedard does have decent speed, but it's mostly just being better than everyone else. And although, yes, it's like obviously the WHL is not the NHL level, he shouldn't have any difficulty translating his game. And obviously his best attribute is definitely his shot, just like Matthews and Pastrnak. So I'd say those are probably the two best comparisons for sure.
For me, there was just one Bedard comparison I saw. You know, when you scroll through your Instagram Explorer page and you just see all those hockey pages come up, and usually there's a lot of garbage you have to sift through, but there was one comparison that I saw that I absolutely loved. It was the shot and offensive creativity of Austin Matthews with not the speed, but the skating edge work of Matt Barzal. And I love that because when you watch his pivots, when you watch the way he opens up his hips, when you watch the way he just gets that light look with his neck as he's moving his edges and trying to open up, it just so much reminds me of Matt Barzal. Can you kind of call back his skating at all to any other comparisons, really? Because like you said, it's not the speed of Connor McDavid. We know that for sure, but like, with that edge work, is there something that you've written or something you've noticed?
Well, yeah, I've never heard the Barzal comparison. I guess it's probably not a popular one because Barzal is like mostly known for how speedy he is, but it's definitely true. He does have great edges. That same for not McDavid, sorry, Bedard has insane edges, which he just uses to he does whatever he wants with it, both his edges and his hands. When you combine them, there's not a player that's going to stop him. And I mean, we've seen that at the World Juniors Championship this year. It was like dominance. He had the puck, and everybody knew he had the puck, and anybody would try to stop him, they just couldn't, because he's just pivot from one side to another with his hands, his hips, his feet. yeah, it's I like this comparison, and yeah, in terms of like being slippery, I think that's what Bedard is the best with the puck at. You just can't catch him.
Yeah, James and I had talked about that before, and James, yeah, I hadn't really seen that anywhere, and so kind of that that's given me a new kind of outlook on him, and yeah, like Jeremy's right, the skating isn't quite as dynamic as it is with McDavid, but it's not going to hold him back, right? It's not something we're talking about. Oh, this guy needs to improve it to be an impact player. It's not the case. So, Jeremy, we're going to go to second. And second, we got the Anaheim Ducks. And I'll let you lead with this one. Who do you have Anaheim taking it to?
I don't have a shocker for this one. I'm just gonna pick Fantilli. Um, I think that's also the pick they're gonna go for. Although I've heard today that there might be looking at Leo Carlson. I still think they're gonna pick Fantilli. Um, yes, Fantilli's not at the level of Bedard. Yes, he struggled in the World Juniors and in any other championship he played against adults this year. I mean, struggled because he didn't produce as much as Bedard, right? But it's he's such a high ceiling player. I don't think people realize that enough when they're comparing him to Mishkov and Carlson and all. I think Fantilli definitely has one of the highest ceilings, not named Bedard or Mishkov, that I've ever seen. Um, the guy is just very, very massive in terms of stature, right? He's big, he hits anybody. He skates with the puck, protecting the puck with his body that in a way that is already NHL like. The hands are insanely smooth. His motor of always just skating into pressure without really struggling. Uh, his shot is amazing. His understanding of like what to do with the puck when he has it is amazing. I think he could definitely improve a bit his off puck game. But as soon as he catches the puck, I mean, he's the perfect center, right? He can carry the puck in transition like only a few players will be able to do. And in the offensive zone, he's a magician. Also, amazing one timer. I think people don't talk about it enough. Yeah, I think Fantilli's the second best player in this draft. Even if Mishkov is there, I'd take him. I think the floor is super high, the ceiling is super high, and you just can't go wrong with him.
Just a couple quick notes on Fantilli, like the fact that as a true freshman, as a draft eligible freshman with the University of Michigan, 65 points in 36 games. That's something that, you only hear of in the stuff of legend, really. Like you look at Paul Correa did something like that. Like the guys who are draft eligible in college, that's rare. It's just luck of the draw and where his birthday falls. But one of the things with Fantilli that I find people struggling with is I mean, maybe not struggling with, but everyone seems to have different names. What are his comparables? Who can people expect him to be like if he reaches his ceiling?
Right. Uh, I've seen a lot of comparisons of John Tavares there, and no disrespect to the guy, but I think if he ends up being a Tavares guy, I think it's gonna be a bit underwhelming to me. Uh, he could be a Malkin type of player where he's uh just an extremely skilled tall dude who just probably goes. I mean, he's gonna go to Anaheim, so he's probably gonna be the number one center there. But I wouldn't like. So it's not gonna be as like Malkin with a 2C situation behind Crosby, but he's gonna get a lot of spotlight. But yeah, I think Malkin is there's no. It's difficult to say a comparison, but I think Malkin is probably the one I'm the closest with, where it's like he's big. When he's dialed in, he can be very mean physically, and yeah, definitely like a 90 points plus guy for sure in terms of what he could be one day.
Yeah, Jeremy, I had Malkin down. The other one I've seen that this isn't mine. I'm not going to claim it. Is Tage Thompson, just in terms of the using his physical attributes to be a dominant centerman. Yeah, ours we had Fantilli too to Anaheim as well. I really like what you said about that ceiling. Like people, again, it's the Connor Bedard draft, so it's going to kind of be like a you know that's just like in 2015. Everybody thinks of it as the McDavid draft, but yeah, Jack Eichel sitting there second overall. He just hoisted his first Stanley Cup. James made the comment about Fantilli's dominance as a freshman in the NCAA. The last player we saw do that was Jack Eichel, won the Holy Baker with 71 points playing in Boston. So yeah, for Fantilli, 65 points, 30 goals in 36 games. I just wanted to say, Jeremy, like you talked about him struggling at the World Junior Championships, and I completely see where you're coming from with that, because obviously he wasn't the player that they thought he was going to be. But I got to say, by the end of that tournament, what was he doing? He had adjusted and he was playing his role well. I think if Fantilli had struggled to be that top line player and then got sad, didn't play well, that would be disappointing. But the fact that he was able to adjust and fill that role and still be effective, even though he wasn't scoring, I left that tournament really impressed with Fantilli just because of that personally.
Right. Well, that definitely says a lot about his like who he is off the ice. So he's not giving up and he's gonna play whatever the coaches tells him to do. But obviously, you're not gonna draft him for a third line role. Like although he definitely played well in this, I think he was third line, might have been second line, but I believe he was third line in the World Juniors. Yeah, for sure. Like he didn't give up. He didn't, as you said, he didn't just say, "All right, whatever. I didn't play well those first 3 games, and coach is bringing me down the lineup, so I'll just give up on this tournament because it's just a random tournament." He didn't give up. He said it himself that he can play many roles and he can do many things on the ice, and yeah, that definitely says a lot about him. Good. Anytime I've seen an interview with him, it definitely just showed to be a great personality off the ice.
So the last thing with the second overall pick, Jeremy, I did see today, like you said, that the Leo Carlsson might be a candidate for the Ducks to take. Obviously, this isn't us predicting what they're going to do, because I do think Fantilli should be the slam dunk. If they decide not to go with Adam Fantilli, you already have Mason McTavish and Trevor Zegras sitting there. Does Matvei Michkov make sense at second for Anaheim?
He's always going to make sense just because of how good he is. I wouldn't say that Anaheim is close to ending this rebuild that they're in. So, yeah, definitely makes sense for sure. I'd still go for Fantilli if I were them, but picking Mishkov there would be for sure understandable.
I just have one more quick little thing about Adam Fantilli there. And with, the production not necessarily being there at the World Juniors, it makes me think back to a draft 10 years ago. Colorado had the first overall pick. It was Joe Sakic pretty much said it's between McKinnon and Barkov. And you take Bedard out of this draft, you take Chicago picking at 1 out of this draft, and you think, all right, this is a very similar situation. We have probably a higher ceiling in Fantilli, where Colorado saw a higher ceiling in McKinnon, but you might have the guy who's probably a little bit more NHL ready in Leo Carlsson, just like there was the guy who was a little bit more NHL ready in Barkov. Do you think that Anaheim would look at readiness at all, or do you think they would say, all right, we've got some more time on this rebuild?
That's a good question. I don't think they should look at readiness. Will they? I think it might factor in like unconsciously because usually NHL ready players will just be better. But it's not necessarily in Leo Carlsson's case right now. But like it's difficult. I don't think they're gonna factor it in. I think usually teams always have this this saying that they always pick the best, the player who they believe will be the best down the road. There's some teams that I think might go down the road of picking the player that's going to be ready the quickest, but I don't think it's going to be Anaheim's case. But there's also an argument to be made to pick Leo Carlsson at 2. I know my friend who works for Moncton has him at 2, and some other people who I talk to frequently also have Leo Carlsson at 2. It just depends what you prefer. But yeah, I'm taking Fantilli from Anaheim. I'm not trying to overcomplicate things. I'm just going simple and taking Fantilli.
All right, Jeremy, I like it. We'll move to 3. I guess we're kind of rotating who's leading, so I'll lead with 3, and it's the guy we've already talked about. Shouldn't be a secret based on what we were talking about at second. It's Leo Carlsson to Columbus at 3rd overall. For me, what I've seen of Carlsson, what I've read of other people seeing Carlsson, what I've seen of him at the World Championships, highlights from the SHL, he's as close to the complete package as you kind of see in a prospect, right? Like his skating and shooting is what I have down as what he needs to develop. But his vision, his stick handling, and his hockey IQ are as NHL ready as anybody is in this draft. And for me with Carlson, I think me and James talked about this. This is a slam dunk for Columbus. Like, you need a centerman to go with the Johnny Gaudreau, Patrick Laine, and this guy might be the first line center in Columbus next year. One of the things that I have down for Carlson is, aside from Bedard, I think he has the highest floor of the draft. Meaning, like, if he doesn't hit as far as being as good as he could be, you're still going to get a very effective centerman no matter what. He's not going to be there. There's no miss factor with him. That was what I was trying to say. So that's my pick at 3. Carlson, what do you have?
I also have Carlson. I think Mishkov is the better player in my opinion. He's the one who's higher on my boards. But yeah, I mean, as you said, they've got Liney, they've got Goudreau, Johnny Goudreau, and they've got Kent Johnson also as a winger who's going to be a star in the next couple of years. They've got great prospects on the wing as well that I'm not thinking of on the top of my head right now, but also defensively. I mean, they've got Juracek, they've got Matejchuk, they've got Svozil. They just got so many. They got Provorov. They've also got Korsen Kulemans. They've got obviously Werenski. It's gonna be back. They don't need a defenseman. They don't really need a winger. And I hate drafting in terms of needs, but when it's like that obvious of a situation like that, I think it has to be done. I think you just draft Leo Carlson here. You've talked about his skating and shooting. I agree that his skating is not the best. I don't think it's gonna hold him back because when you're that intelligent and you're that skilled, you can do it all without being the fastest skater. We've seen guys in the league do that, just like Jason Robertson does it. He's not the greatest skater. Jack Eichel as well. He's not the fastest. He doesn't have always the greatest pace, but I mean we've seen in these Stanley Cup playoffs how dominant he can be. Also, a guy closer to my home, Nick Suzuki. Not necessarily the fastest player, but man, he's so gifted with the puck, and it's not going to hold him back. And for his shooting, Leo Carlson, I wouldn't say he's a bad shot. He just doesn't shoot. Like I've seen so many games, especially on the power play, where he had a one-timer opportunity that was likely going to go in, and he just made an extra pass, or just didn't really. Maybe he didn't trust his shot. Maybe he just doesn't have the reflex of shooting as much. But yeah, I mean, if you coach him and try to make him realize that sometimes shooting is a better option, it should be fine. There's no worries for Leo Carlson. Definitely going to be a very, very good player for Columbus.
Again, I keep going back to player comparisons because that's what you do when you go into the draft. You just think of like, what can these players be? What can I see them being like? And for me, the most fun one I've seen for Leo Carlson is a little bit slower but more defensively sound Nicholas Backstrom. And I love that for Columbus. You look at Columbus's wingers, you look at how their power play would be set up coming in the next few years. If he can slot in on their power play and be even just a shred of Nicholas Backstrom, that is just dynamite. That is incredible. I mean, outside of his skating, I mean, like, what do you think is the biggest benefit that Leo Carlson brings to the table? Because I think out of maybe the top 4 guys we've talked about so much, skill and ceiling wise, he's the one that people know the least about. What's the best thing that Leo Carlson brings to the table?
His best attribute for sure is going to be his passing and just vision, understanding of what's the next play ahead, what he could do to be the most efficient with the puck, but also to be the most creative offensively. Yeah, just puck touches and just passes. He's among one of the best. Again, I always say this, but this year's draft is so loaded. He's one of the best passers I've seen in terms of scouting. So yeah, I like the comparison with Nicholas Backstrom, who's also, has been an excellent passer throughout his career. That's definitely his best attribute. And yeah, I mean, if you exclude skating and I guess shooting, there's nothing that Leo Carlson is going to be like bad at or even average. In terms of the NHL, he's all going to be above average in almost every single category. So intelligent, such an effective player. Never making a mistake. And yeah, as I said, one of the best passers there's this year.
Just before we move on here, now that we've covered those three players, looking back to last year's draft, because people talk about how great this draft is all the time, would you say all three of them? We already know Bedard, but would you say Fantilli and Leo Carlson both would have gone first overall in last year's draft?
I have no doubt in my mind that they would have. At least I would have placed them ahead of Wright and Slavkovsky and Cooley, for sure. All even including Michkov, who we are going to talk about soon. All four and have them first last year.
Okay, Jeremy, we'll see just how soon we're talking about Michkov. Who do you have San Jose taking it for?
Well, San Jose is a team that has a lot of old players. They should have started their rebuild earlier, but they have not, and they are pretty much starting it now. And I mean, Michkov fits perfectly their timeline. They will not be competitive in the next 3 years, and whenever in like 3-4 years they're gonna have their base to build a contender. Mishkov's gonna come in the league at 21 years old, getting paid like $1 million or whatever the maximum is going to be for a first contract in 3 years. He's going to be paid like nothing until he's going to be 24. This is the best decision they could ever make. And if they don't, I think that's going to be something they're going to regret for a while. Will Smith is an amazing center, amazing player with a crazy high ceiling, but we're talking about Mishkov. We're talking about a generational player. We're talking about someone who is insanely intelligent and insanely good off-puck player, but who can also be super flashy, creative with the puck. Also, that's something that people might not know that much because games of Mishkov are kind of difficult to find if you don't have access to them. But he's not the flashiest player. He's not Fantilli or Bedard, where he's just gonna take the puck and carry it from one side of the ice to another all the time. He's gonna do that a few times a game. He's just gonna boom, just be super flashy sometimes, but not all the time. Most of the time, he's just insanely intelligent. He understands where to be at all times. He understands how to just get the puck and score, right? But without having the puck, without carrying it from one side to another. And I think this will only get better as he progresses in the levels, because he's gonna have NHL teammates that are the best in the world and that are gonna be able to see those plays that he sees more often than in like junior Russia or even the KHL. It would be definitely a mistake to not take Michkov at 4. That's the guy I have for them.
Yeah, I agree, Jeremy, for sure. Like, if you look at pure talent and scoring ability, I think he has the second highest ceiling in this draft, right? Based on what we've seen. And you're right. It's hard to find clips of him playing. They're few and far between. I've tried pretty hard this year to find full games, and it's tough. And I think that's a huge reason why he might drop. Like, NHL teams don't have many scouts in Russia, if any, left right now. So it's all film with Matvei Michkov. And if a scout is making a decision based on a Will Smith they've seen a ton of this year, Zach Benson they've seen a ton of this year, or a Matvei Michkov who is, it's pretty boom or bust, even when you consider you have 3 years to wait if he comes at all, right? So, and I have San Jose taking Michkov at 4. If you are purely predicting, if you've got money on who the 4th overall pick is, not who should or shouldn't be, do you still have Michkov at 4?
Oh, that's gonna be Will Smith. That's assuming that Carlson and Fantilli are picked before, it's gonna be Will Smith. I'm confident in that. I really have Mishkov falling like beyond the top 5 for sure. I could see San Jose picking him. Sorry, it could happen, but I think I'd have Will Smith as the guy they're gonna pick there. We've seen guys fall in the draft for even dumber reasons than that. I think it's just gonna happen for sure.
So right before we move on, Matvei Michkov comparison. I'm not getting creative with this one. It's Nikita Kucherov. Am I wrong?
Yeah. Well, also I just wanted to say that NHL teams can see him play in the KHL. They have access to that, but they just can't see him in international games, which is usually what they wait a lot in, because obviously Russia is banned from international competitions. So that's what really just makes teams hesitant. But in terms of comparison, again, Kucherov is going to be a guy who's going to be flashier than Mishkov way more often. It's a good comparison because they when they have the puck in the offensive zone, they do stuff similarly. Although Kucherov is a much better passer and just more pass oriented guy than Mishkov, who is more of a goal scorer and has that goal scoring touch that Kucherov doesn't. But yeah, with the puck, the way they move it, the way they're fluid with it, I see some similarities for sure.
I think just for me, the biggest thing that Matvei Michkov does, if you've watched it, like for everyone who's watched his plays get broken down pass by pass, and they highlight the passing lanes, you've probably seen the same videos I'm talking about. It's incredible to see how intelligent he is, the way he's planned out every play 3 passes ahead. He knows exactly where it's going to be before it happens. It's almost mind-blowing to watch. And that's why I think of Kucherov, because when you watch Kucherov on the power play, he's already charted this out. Exactly how it's gonna go, no matter where it bounces. And so that's the thing that makes me think Kucherov right away. And then also just how deceptive he is with the puck. Like, yes, he might. I think Kucherov's probably a little bit more creative, but I think Michkov is able to use that deception more to his advantage. Like he's the kind of guy I could see. Do you remember that highlight years ago when Kuznetsov faked the pass or faked the shot and then passed behind him from behind the net? That's the
I
thing I think of.
I'll Google it.
Yeah, it's just it's incredible what this guy is going to be able to do at the NHL level when he gets here. But I totally see why people are scared off. Like there is that contract in Russia hanging over their heads. There's that I don't really want to get into politics at all, but it's a scary situation over there. Like in theory, you don't really know exactly what's going to happen. In a perfect world, he somehow gets out of his contract early, or he comes over right away, or there's a perfect plan charted. But I think like if as we've talked about before, he's the second most talented player in this draft. If none of that stuff was an issue, he would be at number 2. He would 100% be at number 2. Teams would be taking the best player available. I mean, as you've said, positional need gets annoying. You want to see the best player go at number 2. It's he is the second best player in this draft, and he's the player I'm the most excited for in this draft. I've already seen so much of Connor Bedard, and like I feel like I know what we're gonna get with him at this point. I want Matvei Michkov. I want to watch this guy play hockey in North America so bad. He is just so talented. It's gonna be incredible. Do you just have one last thought on Matvei Michkov before we move on?
Right. Well, I was just gonna say, because Fantilli's always there's. I think even if Mishkov played in Sweden this year, or he played, let's say he was Canadian and he played with like in the OHL or whatever, I think there's always gonna be that debate because Fantilli is a center and he's bigger. And NHL teams are always gonna have that question of just centers and just bigger players that are going to translate better in their opinion. I think there's always going to be that debate. But yeah, Mishkov, it definitely has more pure talent than Fantilli, and I wouldn't say it's too close either. There's definitely a decent gap. He has the highest pure upside, and he's as you said, such an exciting player to watch. I he said that his dream would be to play in the NHL. He's going to be there at the draft in what 6 days now. Um, it's not. I'm not concerned at all about him coming over. I think it's just a matter of when, for sure.
All right, Jeremy, again, you've said the name Will Smith already, so I guess I'll segue that into who my 5th overall skater is. It is Montreal Canadiens drafting Will Smith. We've heard a lot in the last couple weeks that Montreal is trying to move up in the draft, and for me, that can mean one thing and one thing alone. They want to guarantee that they're going to get one of those top 4 centers in the draft, which are pretty widely considered to be Bedard, Carlson, Fantilli, and Will Smith. So to me, quick scouting report from what I've seen of Will Smith, he's at this high in this draft for one reason, and that's how high his ceiling as an offensive center is. His puck handling and just his hockey sense when he's on the ice. Like, I have this written down on our notes. Like, he is a highlight reel every time he steps on the ice. He kind of has a one-dimensional game. That's really the only lack of praise I'm going to have for him. It's a bit of a lack of a physical play and defensive responsibility, which I do value highly in a center. But, you know, draft picks or lottery tickets, you're buying a Powerball ticket with Will Smith. He's as high end a skilled centerman as you're going to get in the draft. And if he hits, he's going to be an unreal player.
Yeah, I love Will Smith. He's this year he was the best player from the American program. When you watch the team, he was definitely the most dominant player. And that might come as a shocker because I'm not gonna pick him at 5. I'm gonna go for someone else, a teammate of his. I'm gonna go for Oliver Moore, who I think down, yeah, it's a very hot take, but I'll explain it. I think down the line, the guy has as high of a ceiling as Will Smith, or like definitely very similar. We've talked about Barzal earlier. We can talk about Larkin, who are two number one centers who play a very similar game. Well, not super similar, but they have definitely like a decent amount of similarities as Oliver Moore. Oliver Moore is the best skater in this year's draft in so many ways. He's the fastest. He has the best acceleration, the most power, one of the best edges for sure. He can. There's so much he can do with his skating, and I think what people like don't really see with him that much is that there's more than just skating with him. Obviously his game right now is very centered in his skating, but Mitch Brown from Elite Prospects tracked a lot of stuff this year, and when you see his what he tracked, when you compare Moore and Smith, Moore has created as many expected assists as Will Smith this year. He just hasn't gotten the points because he's not playing with Ryan Leonard and Gabe Perreault, who are also very, very high-end players. He was playing with a bunch of different players this year, whether it was like Will Vogt and then a bunch of 2024, 2025 eligible players. Just so many players he played with this year. I'm not saying they're bad players. I'm saying they're not Ryan Leonard or Gabe Perreault. And there was a point somewhere this year where he just started just saying, all right, I'm faster than everybody, so I'll just use it, and that's how I'm going to score, because I've been using my teammates all year and it hasn't really worked out that much. But I believe in the NHL he's gonna use everything, every bit of skill he has that isn't only his skating, and he's gonna be a star. You said you value defensive prowesses and just the effort level. Moore definitely has the edge over Will Smith in this category, and it's not close. Moore is like a hunter of the rush. He just uses his skating and just hunts the rush and kills it before it even forms. He's insanely good defensively, always there in his defensive zone along the boards to help players. His effort level is insane, relentless for checker, never giving up on a puck. In transition, he's a monster. He's just gonna, like, nobody can stop him, right? Yes, he's an amazing skater, but he's gonna use his teammates to create that rush chance in transition. And in the offensive zone, he's a laser of a shot. It's not talked about enough. Maybe his vision is not the same as Will Smith. That's actually not maybe, it's a fact. His vision is not the same as Will Smith. His passing skills aren't the same, but they're not far off. And I think Moore is definitely in this conversation. He's my guy at 5, but yeah, Will Smith I'd also be very happy as a Habs fan, and I'm sure Habs fan will be happy with Will Smith too.
I do really like Oliver Moore. I had him slipping past this area simply because I don't see his ceiling as touching, definitely not the top 5, even the top 10 players in this draft. if Oliver Moore doesn't hit, I don't see his, or even if Oliver Moore hits, sorry, I don't see his ceiling being as high as some of these other guys. Will Smith with that puck handling, I can see being a dominant 1C. Oliver Moore, everything you said is absolutely stuff I've seen in him, seen about him. Uh, it's just is he as slam dunk a first line center as Will Smith could be if he hits? No, that's kind of why I have him dropping. But I love the player and I love the pick for you at fifth overall. So we're gonna go to six, and I'll talk more about Moore when we get to him in our rankings here. So sixth overall is the Arizona Coyotes. And we're talking about two-way players. And I just want to say right now, off the top, before I even say this guy's name, and you can correct me right after if you think I'm wrong, Jeremy. I don't think Zach Benson is the best two-way winger in the draft. I think he's the best two-way forward in the draft. I don't even think it's close. I love this guy. I love the way this guy plays. I love the way this guy covers the ice. His hockey IQ and vision is absolutely unreal. But for a winger to be that dominant on both sides of the puck, again, he's not playing center, and I'm watching him play, and I remember coming back and saying to James when Winnipeg came to Red Deer, and I watched him. This guy's Braden Point. If Point was a winger, he's unbelievable. He's like the things he'll see on the ice. It's so awesome to kind of watch something he does and then watch it back on the replay, because even like watching hockey as much as I do and as much as I have, I don't even see what he's going to do before he does it. And then watching back, it's like, how did he see that? How did he do that? And the only thing that lacks to me in Benson's game is kind of the neutral zone in transition. He's not as dominant as an Oliver Moore. He's not as dominant obviously as those top few picks in the neutral zone, but he's as good of a player in the offensive and the defensive zone as you're going to get. So for Arizona, I have Zach Benson, perfect line mate for Logan Cooley coming in.
Yeah, I also have Zach Benson at 6. Extremely skilled. I don't know about best two-way player in the draft. I don't know that as a forward. I mean, I could see the argument though. I could see it happening one day. Again, relentless forechecker as Oliver Moore. Just always pressuring the opponents without the puck. Extremely he's got that grinding style of play. And yeah, with the puck, it just feels like he plays with his food, right? He's just having fun in the WHL. Amazing passer, super creative. His saucer passes are already they'd be among the best in the NHL if he were to play now. He's when he has the puck, he's attacking the defender. It's not the defender that's trying to push him off. He's attacking the guy. And that's something that I try to watch for in prospects. It's often it shows like how highly skilled, especially when he can complete his plays as much as he does. Very highly skilled. I've seen some concerns about his skating and size and whatnot. I don't think he's the best skater. I think he lacks a bit of explosiveness and maybe separation speed a little bit, but it's not concerning. I mean, if he's so skilled, shouldn't be a problem at all. And he's going to look to maybe develop that in the coming years. But yeah, at 6, Arizona is going to be so happy with Zach Benson for sure.
Yeah, no, he is one of my favorite players in this draft. Like it's I can obviously recognize why he's definitely not going to go in the top 4, probably not going to go in the top 5. But like if I'm picking and choosing realistically, like who. If he falls into Vancouver's lap at 11, I'm laughing. Like I'm so happy. Like it's not to say there aren't other players in this draft that I'd be thrilled with at 11, because this draft is crazy strong, and that 11th overall pick might be a 5th or a 6th overall pick in other years, really, with quality of player you're getting. But I'll let you take Philadelphia at 7.
Let me look at my list. At 7, well, I just have Will Smith. I think he's pretty much as you said, slam dunk, very high ceiling guy. There's some risk because obviously he's gonna go to BC, Boston College next year with Gabe Perreault and Ryan Leonard. So he's gonna keep that line and he's gonna keep dominating, but he's probably not gonna have to improve the flaws that are in his game that Leonard and Perreault cover, because he's going to keep playing with him unless they shuffle the lines, which is also possible. But yeah, Smith, we've talked about him enough. Just insanely high ceiling. One of the best hands in the draft, one of the best vision in the draft. And yeah, he's definitely in this conversation from a tier that to me goes from 5 to 8, anywhere there. I think that's where he belongs for sure. Uh, yeah, that's why I take him. I take him at 7.
Would you say that Will Smith is definitely one of the guys who needs some more refining in his game? Like one of the guys who's going to have to take a couple years before he comes to the NHL?
Yeah, I think when you look at he's probably gonna go top 5, maybe top 4. When you look at the guys around him, guys like Carlson, Fantilli, etc., and even guys beneath him like Reinbacher, who's much more NHL ready. Um, Will Smith, Will Smith will maybe hit a bit of a wall against stronger and like more talented competition because he's not going to dominate as much as he has in the NTDP this year. And obviously, there's going to be a point where he's just not going to have Perrault and Leonard with him. But it shouldn't be that much of a problem. I think it's going to take a bit of adjustment for him, but he's very likely to be a star one day. Just a matter of when.
Yeah, well, and you said that you were going to predict Smith to go 4 to San Jose, and James, much as Matt Michkov fits San Jose's timeline, there's no reason the Sharks need to rush Will Smith in the door, right? He can play 2 years for sure in the NCAA before he comes. And what San Jose, what would they rush him in for? They're not going to compete for a playoff spot in the next 2 years, probably not in the next 4 years, unless something huge happens to that organization. We'll see. Maybe they get a nice little Macklin Celebrini in the draft next year. Cole Iserman, that might accelerate their timeline a little bit if they're as bad as it looks like they're going to be. 7th overall to the Philadelphia Flyers. They picked Cutter Gauthier over David Juracek last year. I think they take the defenseman this year. David Reinbacher is my pick at 7. Late 04 birthday, already makes him older than a lot of players in this draft here, but he's everything you want in a defenseman in the neutral zone and the defensive zone. He's maybe not as offensively gifted as some other defensemen in the draft from what I've seen, but this guy, like 6'2", 187 pounds, he is the real deal on the back end. Right-handed shot, shutdown defenseman, neutral zone defender, transition defenseman. He scores very highly in all 3 of those. A lot of the things I look for in defenseman is that first pass. I love his first pass. He gets that puck in the defensive zone. He's a one-man breakout. He can carry it, or he can find a tape-to-tape pass in the neutral zone, and then the pressure's off. Pressure's alleviated. He's never just dumping it up the boards. He's never handing it away to the opposition. He's never making a mistake. He is an ace on the back end. He's a play killer. I love him. I would love this to be Vancouver's pick at 11. Honestly, he's probably my number 1 pick to drop, but I just don't see it happening. The Flyers have some forward prospects. They've got Bobby Brink. They've got Cutter Gauthier. They don't have defensemen, and I think this makes a lot of sense for them.
Yeah, I think if Reinbacher's there and Mishkov is already picked, I think there's a strong possibility they're gonna go for him. As you said, neutral and defensive zone are his game for sure. He's extremely good at just being NHL like defenseman. He's so intelligent. Although there's sometimes where he pinches where it's not super necessary, but it's not gonna be concerned. I mean, you can just tell him, don't do that, don't pinch like that, and he's gonna understand. As you said, breakout, transition passing, he's so good at it. Well, I'm gonna talk about him a little later because I have him lower, but definitely a guy who honestly could and maybe should play next year. Philly's not in a rush, so maybe that's not necessary, but he's NHL ready, and I think there's no world where almost no world because we never know, but there's almost no world where he doesn't become at least a second pairing defenseman.
Right. I like the analysis, Jeremy. Yeah, you'll obviously have the mantle to talk about him. So 8th overall, we've got the Washington Capitals. I'm really torn here between the player that I have at 8th and the player that I have at 9th. I'm going to go Ryan Leonard at 8th overall to Washington. The Capitals. This is kind of the first step in their rebuild. And when Washington was dominant, they were dominant with Nicholas Backstrom up the middle. They were dominant with Evgeny Kuznetsov up the middle. I think their number 1 priority is going to be filling that center spot so you have that guy for years to come. And for Ryan Leonard, I think he has one of the highest floors in this draft. Not as defensively sound as Oliver Moore, not as defensively sound as Leo Carlson, but as a centerman, he's probably the second best power forward in this draft to me behind Adam Fantilli. Maybe a case can be made for Colby Barlow. He's Colby Barlow's got all the tools. We'll see if he can translate it to the NHL game. But Leonard, his shot is unreal. He hits like crazy. And for the Washington Capitals, I think this might kind of be a dream come true down the middle. He brings so much to their team. If Evgeny Kuznetsov sticks around, we'll see. There's been a lot of trade chatter with him, but Leonard could step in pretty quickly. I do think he's not going to make the NHL next year, but in 2 years he could be a Calder candidate. Like he's pretty physically developed already. He's close.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of talk about him being the third Kachuk brother, and I totally see it. I've been one of the first who's made this comparison. He's a bully on the ice. He's just gonna hit you, and then you get up, and then he's gonna cross check you, and then you get up again, and you go to change, and he's gonna score a goal, and it's like you don't like playing against him. He's extremely physical. When he's along the boards, you try to push him off, and he's just gonna reverse hit you, and you're gonna make a pass to Will Smith, and they're gonna score a goal, and you're like, what am I supposed to do in this situation? He's been, I think he's been, from what I've seen enough games of the American program, and overall it's tough to say which of these three guys on his line has been the most play driving. I'd say it's probably Leonard. In transition, just to be the guy who picks the puck up from his zone and carries it to the other zone. Usually it's been, or with passes, or just by carrying it. Usually it's been him, the guy who's been the most involved. And yeah, I think again, his limitations to his game, they're not going to be exposed in college if he still plays with Smith and Perreault. But I think he's, out of the three, the one who has maybe the less limitations and the one who's going to be the most fine. There's a solid argument for him being the most NHL ready out of the three guys. And there's some of my good friends who I talk about daily about these guys who have Leonard over Smith and Moore and everybody. He's a guy who has an insanely high ceiling and extremely creative with a puck. There's so much to like for. I don't know if I said it, but I also have Ren Leonard at 8 for Washington. So yeah, they're gonna be super happy with Ren Leonard if it happens.
I mean, you kind of said the third Kachuk brother. I love that because for me as a hockey fan, I think hockey needs more of that. I love the speed and the skill in the game today, but I want more of that. I want more of that grit. And we've seen that with a lot of players on the last few Stanley Cup champs, how those guys have become more and more valuable over the past few years, and because they're just so much more rare. Like they're so much harder for a team to find that guy who's the total package of speed, offensive ability, and just being a problem to play against.
Yeah.
And I think if Ryan Leonard can be that kind of guy, that is a building block piece for any team trying to put in their offense together for years to come. I think with a lot of those guys, though, there's often a big weakness in their game, something they really have to work on to translate to the pros. What's Ryan Leonard's biggest weakness?
I think he's one of those who doesn't have that big of a weakness. I mean, his skating is not more like, but it's definitely good enough. He's there defensively. He's, as who said, insanely physical. You said you like speed and skill. What if you just bring grit to that player? Like, imagine a very good speedy skill player and you just give him the grit. That's what Leonard is. Very underrated shot. Just very, very good player. Maybe a little more consistency. But it's tough to do when you're always hitting. Sometimes there's gonna be nights where you're gonna be a little hurt on a shoulder. Maybe you just don't hit as much. So maybe trying to be less dependent on physicality. But it's not a problem. I think Leonard, there's not many weaknesses to his game. It's just maybe not as high end as guys like Will Smith, who you can just see the talent that is like through the roof. But he's definitely very, very talented. So I think he's the all around package. I don't think there's too many weaknesses with him.
The only thing that I can think of for Leonard that it would not scare me off. Obviously, it's you're getting this player, and at the end of the day, you're drafting a 17-year-old. The team that drafts him is going to be largely responsible for how this guy develops, what he develops into. So it's not a huge concern for me. But you talked about it already. Ryan Leonard played on Will Smith's wing for a lot of this year. We know he can play center. If Washington need a center, is the fact that he played so much wing this year a concern?
Um, yeah, I think he could be a center. I mean, it's all gonna depend on what Boston College does, but maybe, you know, it's tough. Maybe they put Will Smith on the wing with Carter Gauthier, and then they put Perrault on a wing with Ryan Leonard, and they go for like a 1-2 punch. I don't know what they're gonna do. Um, but Ryan Leonard maybe brings a little more of a complete game than Will Smith, right? Sometimes he's the winger on the ice, but you see him as a center because of how involved he is defensively and how he's maybe a little more of a transition player than Will Smith. He could be a center one day. I think it's up to what Washington decides, how their conversation is gonna go, if he wants to be a center or not, if they really need a center or not. We'll see in the coming years. I think I think it depends what they get in return for Kuznetsov or whoever they're going to trade. If they get a center prospect, or if there's a magical, just someone who just appears in the organization as a top six center. We'll see how it's going to happen, but he could be a center if needed. I don't think it's going to be a problem.
All right, Jeremy, you're up for the Detroit Red Wings at ninth overall.
Right. Again, another shocker. I'm gonna pick Gavin Brindley at 9. I think a lot of people see him as a small, gritty player, maybe a third liner who uses his speed and motor to create a lot of stuff offensively, but it's not gonna work in the NHL. Um, I think Brindley checks almost every box that's necessary to be the next small top six, almost borderline star player. When you think about it, his speed, he's one of the fastest players in the entire NCAA already as a rookie who was 17, 18 years old this year. And it's only going to get better. He's going to add more mass and he's not going to lose that speed, most likely. He's very, very physical. So that's what you need for a small player, right? You need him to be physical, to resist the pressure, to be able to not be knocked off the puck easily, to be able to face tall, muscular opponents, and he's been doing that all year. It's not a problem. He goes against the boards. He's intelligent. He baits those players out, those defensemen or forward, depending what the situation is. He's able to cut through them without struggling. So he's got that physical aspect. He's got that speed. In terms of skill, he is extremely skilled. He has a ridiculous shot. He is one of the best, well, not best, but like most underrated vision in the entire draft. Again, a bit like Leo Carlson, always making the right plays, never really fumbling a puck or just making a decision that you're like, why did you do that? He's so reliant, not as reliant on speed as people say he is, in my opinion. Maybe he is right now in the NCAA, but like in the NHL, he has all the skill, all the physicality, and everything else you need to not be that just speedy guy in junior. I mean, not junior, but NCAA, that speedy guy who in the NHL it's not going to work out. I think maybe this, like, he doesn't have Caulfield or the DeBrincat's shot, but the skill is so there, and I'm not worried. I mean, yes, he's played with Fantilli a good chunk of the year. Yes, Michigan is an extremely skilled program, but he's produced a lot. He's produced, I don't know if it was above point per game or it's definitely around point per game this year. A lot of people say, because he played with Fantilli or whatever. No, it's not the case. Oftentimes he was creating those plays for Fantilli. He's so skilled, and I think I'm happy with picking him at 9. I think he's, again, checks all the boxes in order to be the next small star.
38 points in 41 games was his stat line, and that's no shame in that as an NCAA freshman at all, even playing on Fantilli's wing. So I do have a different pick for 9. Sorry, Jeremy. But, before we move on from Brindley, we can kind of go back. I'll give some more points on him when we have him. I had him in the early 20s, and I thought I was reaching a little bit, but never mind. So tell me NHL comparable if you've got one for Gavin Brindley.
Right. Well, maybe they're different players, but maybe a Jesper Bratt who we've seen who has just popped off this year. Maybe not in the playoffs, but that's fine. It's his first taste of the playoffs. We'll see how he develops. Not how he develops, how like his experience, how he's gonna play in the next playoffs, because obviously the Devils are probably gonna make the playoffs in the next coming years as well. I think I see some similarities. Obviously, Brad is an extremely good skater. And although I've said all praises to Brindley as a skater, I think he still has some ways to go in order to be as good of a skater as Jesper Bratt. And Brad, he's small, but again, he checks all the boxes to be a very, very good player who happens to be small. I think Brindley is it's what I think is gonna happen with him. I see some shades of Jesper Bratt in the ways that he's yes extremely good on as a speedy winger, but does more than that. You can see how skilled he is with the puck. You can see how good of a passer he is. So yeah, I'd say there's definitely some players in the NHL that are like Brindley, and Jesper Bratt is one of them.
I've got one. I think just from what I've seen, maybe a slightly more skilled, less angry Yanni Gord.
I like this one as well. I've seen Tyler Mott as well. One of my friends looks like Tyler Mott. And I think if I'm wrong with Brindley, which I totally could be, I mean, not a lot of people have him as high as I do. If I'm wrong, I think he at least becomes a Mott or Gord player. Coaches are gonna love him. The guy never stops skating, always super like relentless, insanely good defensively as well. He's gonna be a star on the power play, penalty kill. Jeez, I can't speak. The penalty kill. It's tough to project how good a player will be on the penalty kill, but when you see what he's done with Michigan and in terms of like being on that penalty kill, you can just tell how he's gonna translate just super well as a defensive forward who can add some grit and some speed, like a Gord or Mott at minimum. That's what I believe.
One last thing on him. I mean, if you're going to reach, if you're going to shoot for the fences, I think Detroit was a really smart team to pick for him rising. They've drafted a lot of guys with high-end skill, and Steve Yzerman's the kind of guy who would draft to fill an exact spot he projects. So that's a very smart choice if you're going to pick him to rise. I respect that one a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we haven't done our pick at 9, James, Jeremy. So we have one of the youngest players in this draft. His name is Dalibor Dvorsky. So for Detroit, they just picked Marco Kasper, but other than Kasper, their center prospect depth, it's not there, right? They've got Simon Edvinsson, Mo Seider as a young player on the back end. They've got some young wingers there, but I think this for Detroit and their rebuild, them trying to move forward, a Kasper Dvorsky 1-2 punch down the middle that's almost as good as it gets. Even though he's one of the youngest players in the draft, even though he played a huge chunk of the year in a professional men's league as a 16-year-old as a 17-year-old for most of it, like it's something that has to be praised in his game, that he produced the way he did, both on the score sheet, but even just the way he played was so good for AIK in the SHL. Like, you have this guy who can be a great power forward offensively, but defensively, this guy's sound. He's so good in his own zone. He's versatile. When he gets that puck, I talked a lot about the transition play of defenseman, right? That first pass. When Dvorsky picks up the puck in his own zone, it's always out, right? He's again another guy who's a one-man breakout. World Juniors with Slovakia, only a goal and 3 points in 5 games, so he didn't get a ton of attention. But I really like this guy. I do. And at 9th overall, if you're the Red Wings, I think you're taking this and you're running and you're laughing. And for Steve Yzerman, he's gone off the board. I know James has said, remember Mo Seider in Vancouver in 2019, the gasp that kind of reverberated through the crowd when he took that player. And so I think James is right. I could totally see Yzerman going off the board and grabbing a Gavin Brindley if he's really high on him. But I love Dvorsky. I think he's a slam dunk at 9 for Detroit. I don't know where you have him, Jeremy, but what do you think about him?
I have him a bit lower, but I'm a fan of his game. In terms of defense, he's one of the best prospects available this year. He's so intelligent defensively, how to defend the rush, how to be there for his team, to initiate the breakout. It's just like he's very, very smart. And I mean, he's. I've seen a video this morning of him being asked like you haven't really scored that much in the Allsvenskan this year. Why is that? And he said that he definitely should have scored more, but it's not going to be a problem. He believes that he's going to be an offensive player in the NHL one day, and it's just a matter of like when he's going to be able to score. He believes that his shot, his offensive vision, offensive talent, he thinks it's going to flourish at some point, and I'm confident in that too. The only thing that I'm a little skeptical on is skating. It feels like he has weights in his skates sometimes. The acceleration is rough. The top speed's not too great. The edges are not ideal. There's a lot of stuff about his skating that I'm a little hesitant on. I think it's gonna hold him back offensively at some point. In the NHL, you need to be if you're not that good of a skater, you need to be just phenomenal. I don't think Dvorsky is phenomenal enough. I think his skating is just a little too worrying for me right now. But he's so good defensively. He's so smart. I think if something happens to his skating, then he just becomes just extremely good of a skater somehow. Just Detroit picks him up and says, "All right, you're gonna skate 15,000 times a day. You can go up the ice and back and forth." I think he could be at what he was projected to be last year. A very high end player offensively. So yeah, I like that pick for sure.
All right, Jeremy, did you want to segue into who you have St. Louis landing
Yes.
at 10th?
St. Louis again. It's a player who might be a little bit of a hot take. It's probably not as big of a hot take as Gavin Brindley, but he's a guy who's been up and down this year in people's rankings. He just in January just started shooting up everybody's rankings and was in some like top 10 everywhere, and at some point just fell off this year. But I've still believed in him throughout the year. At 10, if I were St. Louis, I'd go for Andrew Crystal. I don't know how to say his name. Crystal or Crystal, whatever. He's with a buck, magician, and it's not hard to see. Yes, he's been very inconsistent this year. He has said that he's had to deal with illness and just stuff like that. It's been bugging him. In the playoffs, he has not been at the top of his game. With Kelowna this year. And I mean, it's inconsistency for sure, and I can see why he dropped many people's boards. But I feel like people are too quick to just forget how dominant he was at some point this year. The amount of play creating he was doing, it's not spotting lanes, it's creating them. He was creating plays for his teammates with his edges, with his body, just creating space. He has a very underrated shot. In terms of tools, he's at the very top of this draft. And I mean, at 10, I'd be willing to pick him just because of how good he is. Yes, his skating isn't super great in terms of speed and acceleration. It's fine. I think people are too concerned on that. It's fine. Like it's just gonna be just fine if he trains it a lot. He's too good with the puck to make him fall for me past like I'd say, let me look at my list quickly. Past like 14, if I were an NHL team, I'd bang on my table to just try to make a phone call and pick him up. Chicago is gonna pick Bedard, and they've also got a pick at 19. It could happen. Bedard and Cristal, two buddies, could be on the same team one day. That'd be phenomenal. But yeah, if I were St. Louis, I'd definitely consider Cristal.
Yeah, that is another one that yeah, like again, I remember him being up there, and from what I've seen of him, pretty much everything you said has been true. The both with how good he can be offensively, how good his hands are, and then how inconsistent he can be. He's probably the most like, well, it's not just that he's a boom or bust prospect, Jeremy. To me, he's a boom or bust hockey player. Like he can go on the ice and absolutely dazzle you, dance through the team and score, or he can go up the ice, stop up at the offensive blue line, try and avoid a hit, give up the puck, and then a lackluster back check leads to a goal, right? Like that's what I see out of Andrew Crystal. It can be both things. It can be either. I wouldn't let him drop as far as some other people I've seen let him drop. I'm not going to take him at 10. 10th overall for me is a defenseman. The St. Louis Blues for, like Scott Perunovich is, we'll see what he
Injury, right?
turns into, right? He's been hurt, only 20
All year.
games in the AHL or something last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you look at the rest of the St. Louis Blues prospects, other than Perunovich, who's now 24 years old, they got Jimmy Snuggerud, they've got Jake Neighbors, they've got Zachary Bolduc, they've got Zach Dean, they've got Joel Hofer. It's time for a defenseman, and I think the St. Louis Blues are going to prefer Dmitry Simashev to Axel Sandin Pellikka. That's the two that I have left behind after Reinbacher went 7 to St. Louis. Simashev, like, again, I haven't seen too much of this guy play, so maybe I've just seen everything good, but I've seen everything good from this guy. I haven't seen anything bad. It's almost like mind-blowing to me how Simashev moves at 6'4". Like guys that are 6'4" aren't supposed to be able to skate as well as he does, and he does it, and he does it so well. Neutral zone defender, shutdown defenseman. He's the only one that I think rivals Reinbacher in both of those categories. Decent in the transition. He's just not an offensive defenseman. That's where you're lacking with him. He's not a point producer. He's not really a puck handler or a shooter, but his skating is phenomenal. His physicality is phenomenal. It's honestly, I think you have Jacob Slavin, maybe better than Jacob Slavin, bigger than Jacob Slavin for sure, sitting here at 10th overall. And if you're the St. Louis Blues with all those forwards you have in your system, I don't think you let this guy pass.
Yeah. Simashev has been the best defenseman on my board for almost all year until I recently, who I decided to put Axel Sandin Pellikka over him. But I mean, Simashev, as you said, the guy, you just don't understand how he can move like that. He's such a smooth skater, able to just maneuver on the blue line offensively or just in any situation with or without the puck with such ease at such a big size, and you just don't comprehend how that's possible. He's like a unicorn out there. It's very, very unique player. I think offensively, you said that he's not the guy maybe to bet on to be like a big offensive force in the NHL. I've seen games where he's been that guy. I've seen breakaways out of him. I've seen him just go on a breakaway. I've seen him in the offensive zone behind the net where it's like, are you Denton Matejchuk or something? It's like you don't understand what he's doing offensively. I think some of it is him not really knowing what he's supposed to do offensively. I think there's some concerns with obviously he hasn't really produced this year that much. His offensive game is not translatable right now, but he tries. I've seen him try it a lot, as I said, breakaways and just activating offensively, looking for high danger chances. He just doesn't know how to do it right now. There's problems with there's questions, let's say, with his understanding of how to produce offensively. People call it just hockey IQ, even though it's a very vague term. But there's some problems with that offensively. But I think when you've got the tools that he has, the hands, we've not talked about that yet, but extremely good hands for a defenseman. Like it's ridiculous. When you got the tools that he has, the game is just automatically easier. And yes, he struggles to be an offensive factor, but he's been so good defensively in the KHL for most of the year. Although there's sometimes on the breakouts where he just tries too much or whatever, but it'll be fine. Defensively, when he defends the rush, he's been excellent against men in the KHL this year. And when you got the tools that he has, offensively, it should come one day. Obviously, it's a risky player. Dude almost didn't score in junior in Russia, where it's decently high scoring, and it's worrying. You can ask some questions about that, but I think I think that the tools are just so high end that you can't really pass on them that much. I've got him very close to that range. Um, but for it's Vancouver's turn, right? Right. For Vancouver, I have Gabe Perreault. Uh, Again, a little bit of a reach, but the guy beat everybody on the history of the American program in terms of points. He's beat everybody from the 2019 class, so whether it's Caulfield, Jack Hughes, Matt Boldy, Trevor Zegras. He's beaten DY -1 Austin Matthews. He's beaten Phil Kessel. He's beaten Patrick Kane. He's beaten so many players that have been on that program by a lot. He has more than Smith, more than Leonard, who we all have higher than him. So what's up with him? Why is he so low for on everybody's board? I'm trying to understand. I've asked many questions to many scouts from McKean's, from elite prospects, from just my friends in general who watch everybody a lot. Uh, the consensus seems to be that his skating is worrying, especially his edges. Um, I don't see that as a problem that much. He's insanely intelligent. Many people say he's like this year's Jordan Dumais, where Dumais, yes, he's going to score a lot, and he did score a lot this year, but he's not going to be high end because skating and because he doesn't create lanes. He just spots them and is good at as a junior player. I think Perreault's not the same case. I think in terms of passing, sometimes he just gets the puck, and you're like, all right, he's probably going to shoot, right? And he just finds Will Smith backdoor, and you're like, how did you even see that? Um, he's one of the best passers this year. He's the skill level is so there. The hands, the shot, also both very underrated. Um, yes, the skating is not great. It's not ideal, but when you're that intelligent and when you're that skilled with the puck, you're gonna find a way to make that not be a problem. Perreault, if he fails at being a good NHLer, I'm definitely gonna look back at how I evaluated him. But I think people are too worrying on his skating. And when I ask, is there something else with his game that's problematic? Usually it's like, no, it's just he's not very good skater with the edges and he doesn't create. I don't see that. I think he's gonna be an extremely good player. But yeah, it's a bit annoying that he's gonna play with Leonard and Smith next year. I would have liked to see him with other guys, how he's gonna play. But I mean, in terms of who he is as a player, I think it's just a mystery for me for why he's so low. I've heard NHL teams are very high on him. I think he could go like 10 or 11. I think Bob, you saw Bob's list was out today. I think he has him at 10. Yeah, usually we'll see where he goes in the draft, but I think I've heard NHL scouts are very high on him. Um, and yeah, I'm high on him as well. We'll see how he plays though. It's very intriguing prospect.
Obviously, you can develop the skating, you can develop the
Also, yeah.
physicality. For me with Perot, what would drop him and what is good, what dropped him on my list is the skating isn't there, but not more so than the skating, but definitely to add on to it, it's the kind of the physical nature of his game, right? Like he's playing with Will Smith, he's playing like he doesn't win those board battles, right? Sometimes he goes in there and it's like his energy. He's like a he's like the Tasmanian devil in the corner, and that digs him out the puck. But if he ever gets pinned, if he ever gets stopped, he doesn't really know how to roll off those checks. He doesn't really know how to get the puck out of that area. It's a lot of stuff that you see more of in the NHL than the level he's playing, right? So that's when I'm looking at it. Okay, that's going to be something he's going to need to learn. It's obviously a skill that is going to need to develop. It's going to develop in the NHL. He's got to learn how to do it, and I think he will. But for now, that's what drops him down my board a little bit. I think this is going to be the first time that I pick somebody that you had higher. And for me, to Vancouver at 11 is Oliver Moore. I don't think Vancouver's taking a winger, right? I think it's going to be between a defenseman and a center. They just traded Bo Horvat. They just drafted Jonathan LeCurry-Mackey last year. So I think if you're the Canucks, you've got Demko in goal, and you've got a centerman and a defenseman here. It's basically, are you choosing Oliver Moore or Axel Sandin Pellikka? And I just think Oliver Moore comes around less often. I know, Jeremy, you had a lot of good things to say about him, and like he's the best skater in this draft. He's the best skater in last year's draft. He might be the best skater in the year before's draft, right? Like he is such a fast player, and it's not just the speed straight line. It's everything. It's the mobility. It's how he plays in transition. It's the edges. It's the motor. It's just everything he has going for him is awesome. And I think for somebody like Moore, the two-way ability, only Zach Benson, I think, is a better two-way forward in this draft than he is, if that. Um, he's phenomenal on both sides of the puck, and for Vancouver, it's a slam dunk pick at 11. If he's there and they don't take him, I think they do make a mistake. The only winger I'd take at 11 from Vancouver is Michkov, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, if you want a center, Moore is gonna be your perfect center. He just plays like a center. He's gonna be a center in the NHL. Yeah, just definitely a pick that if I were a Vancouver Canucks fan at 11, I'd be very, very happy with.
All right, James, just a word from you on Vancouver's needs. Do you see what I mean about the wingers, or do you think if there's a slam dunk winger like Gabe Perreault there, they take him? What do you think?
I think Vancouver is overloaded on wingers, but I think looking at the trading landscape and the market over the next couple of years with the salary cap in the NHL probably opening up a bit, I think that stocking up on the best players available, even if they are wingers, I don't think that's going to hurt them whatsoever. In fact, I think I would lean towards that. I mean, I personally think Vancouver right-handed defenseman would be cool, but if they find their guy that they like, that they can see slotting in with their best players, which Gabe Pro very clearly could be, it like I could totally see him lining up with any of their top forwards. It kind of works really well in my eyes the way with what I've seen from his game. I mean, admittedly small sample size. I do lean a little bit towards a right-handed defenseman, but no, I have no problem with them taking a winger just because of what the trading landscape is looking like in the NHL over the next couple of years.
So we're at pick. We're at Arizona again, right?
Yeah, pick
Yep.
12's the Coyotes, and we both had them taking Benson at 6, so they've got their winger. They got their center last year in Logan Cooley. I think they check a defenseman box. Jeremy, who do you have them taking though?
Axel Sandin-Pellikka. I guess you have him as well there. I believe he's the best defenseman in this draft. The way he's able to join the rush, to participate offensively, use teammates to just create offensive chances off the rush, but also in the offensive zone. He's deceptive. He's extremely good with the puck. There's not a world where he doesn't become, in my opinion, a very, very solid offensive defenseman one day. He's maybe a bit on the smaller side of things, but he's such a creative player offensively. He activates much more than successfully activates in the offensive zone much more than anybody else in terms of defensemen, more than Reinbacher, more than Simashev. He's able to get to the net as a defenseman, and I think he's this year's best defenseman. The offensive ceiling is very, very high. And yeah, there's I think he's a decently safe projection to be at least a top 4 offensive defenseman.
I look at Sandin Pellikka, I see 3 things. I see one of the best offensive defensemen, if not the best offensive defenseman in this draft class. One of the best transition defensemen, if not the best transition defenseman in this draft class. I see somebody whose defensive game needs to get better in his own zone. It's again, don't want to throw the word liability out, but it's 100% something that he is going to need to improve in the NHL. And again, we're talking about the Vancouver Canucks, which we just were, with Oliver Moore at 11. I think you have Quinn Hughes, who you already need, like Sandy Pellikka and Quinn Hughes can't play together, right? They might score every shift, but they'll let them 2 goals every shift.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, right? But for the Arizona Coyotes at 12, you have this guy who is so much raw talent, right? His skating is good, his puck handling is good, his hockey sense is good. Everything he does with the puck is very well done. And so for the Coyotes, again, you have Cooley, you have Benson, and you have Sandy Pellikka. All of a sudden, that top 3 prospects is looking really, really nice. And this is your first defenseman, isn't it, Jeremy? This is my third already.
Yeah, it's my first defenseman. But I could see arguments for him being easily in the top 10 this year. Uh, you've talked about his defensive game. He's had struggles at the beginning of the year, especially defending the rush. The gap control was not really good. He could get past from the sides with speed. There was some misclues defensively in the defensive zone. You could say he was a bit soft when he was defending his net, but I think especially like the way he defended the rush, it's really improved this year. Playing in the SHL definitely helped him because you can be a liability in the SHL. I mean, this is a men's league. This is one of the best leagues in the world. There's so many fans, so many pressure. If you make a mistake defensively, you're just gonna get benched. You're gonna get cut. You're gonna get sent down to the G20 league. And that's not what players want. Pelika definitely, Sunny Pelika definitely had to get better defensively this year, and I think the SHL helped him do that. I think he's always going to be, since he's on the smaller side, it's always going to be a bit of a struggle for him to defend in front of the net. But it's improved this year, and yeah, it's my first defenseman, but I like him a lot. I think the upside's there. I wouldn't pair him with a Quinn Hughes, you're right, but I'd still take him on my team, put him in my second pairing if we have a Quinn Hughes on his team already. I put him in the second pairing. You could run both of them on the power play. That'll be lethal. And yeah, it's just very, very good defenseman. One of the best, definitely one of the best defensemen, in my opinion, the best out of this year's class.
So much has been about Arizona's off the ice troubles, but Cooley last year, if it's Benson and Sandin Pelika this year, James, what can you say about that Coyotes team and the prospects they're building for a team that obviously number one priority as the organization is finding a home, but those players that are already there, how do they look?
You look at the prospects that they have up front. You look at Logan Cooley, Dylan Gunther, Michelli popped off this year. He was just kind of a nice diamond in the rough they found. They already have Clayton Keller, who's still pretty young by all means. And Lawson Krause is a great complementary piece to slot in with these young guys, even though he might potentially get moved. But I think where they have glaring issues in their prospect system is the back end. Like Victor Soderstrom was drafted by an analytics heavy management group, and I don't really see him. I mean, I don't know. I'd love to be proven wrong, but I don't really see him slotting in as the guy that they picked, I believe, inside the top 10. I don't think he's going to be a top pair guy. I mean, they might get a number 3, number 4 defenseman slotting in at the edge of their second pair. That might be nice, but they really need to add some high end skill on the back end to complement this forward core that they're trying to grow and develop. I think that if Arizona were to take Sandin Pelika, that would be the best option available. I think a lot of very, very talented forwards are going to be on the table, and it's going to be super tempting to go, whoa, this guy could be at 15, a guy we would have found at 5 or 6 another year offensively. But they shouldn't be tempted. This is one of those times where I'd say, please draft positionally. They need it. It's a glaring hole. And if you want to ever make steps going forward, we've seen from all of the top teams in the NHL the past 3-4 years, you have to have very, very good possession, first pass going through the neutral zone. You have to have that great breakout defenseman. You have to have that D that can run your power play. It's a hole that they have and a hole they need to fill, and Sandin Pelika might be the guy.
Yeah, I agree. I depends who's available. If Mishkov is somehow available there, you take him. But yeah, I agree. They've got so many great players offensively coming up. Logan Cooley's one of them. They've got Clayton Keller. They should try to keep. I know there's rumors that he wants to leave. Keep him, please. He's super underrated. And yeah, I don't see who's gonna be that power play quarterback. I think if they don't draft Pelika, it's if he's available there and they don't draft him, it's unfortunate because he would have been a great fit for sure.
All right, Jeremy. Buffalo at 13. Who's up?
Simashev, we've talked about already, but yeah, Buffalo. I mean, you've got Darlene, you've got Power, but man, if you pair up Simashev with one of the two, the combo could be just crazily good. We've talked about already how good he is in the defensive zone. Um, if he starts just finding out how to be efficient offensively and assisting guys like Darlene and or Power, um, it could be just an extremely good fit. I know Buffalo have had rumors of Simashev already, so it fits as well. It's the guy I'd go for at 13. And yeah, I like him a lot. That'd be a great pick for Buffalo.
For me, I completely agree because you look at that Buffalo team, they can already pour on goals with the offense they have, and they haven't even integrated Matt Savoy and Jack Quinn into their offense. Like that hasn't happened yet. Maybe it doesn't happen. And JJ Paterka has more steps to take. They have so many forward prospects. Like Peyton Krebs has more of an impact to make. It's just adding another forward to this Buffalo Sabres team, it doesn't make any sense at all. And as you said, Darlene and Power, those guys are great at every end of the ice. They have Matthias Samuelson, who just keeps getting better. I think adding Simashev, you're going to end up being one of those teams with an embarrassment of riches on the back end.
Yeah, I mean you've got Devin Levi and net, who I'm extremely big fan of the guy. Coming from Montreal, obviously, but just like the guy's gonna be a star. He's one of the best. He was one of the best prospects goalie this year, and he should in no time be a top goalie in the NHL, in my opinion. So you've got that all figured out. You've got the offensive defensive side of things figured out with Dali and Power. And yeah, as you said, offensively, I mean, there's so many players. We've got that first line of Skinner, Thompson, and who am I forgetting? Tuck. You've got the second line this year, who is Dylan Cousins, who they just locked up a big contract with Peterka and Quinn. You've got guys like Casey Middlestat, who played better this year. Victor Olofsson, I know he's a extraordinarily good passer. Um, and then you've got guys in your system like Peyton Krebs. You've got guys in your system like Yuri Kulik, who has really taken a big step offensively this year. The AHL being uh, um, if I remember correctly, he's the guy who scored the most in the AHL in his draft year plus one since Rantanen in 2016 or 17, like a while ago. He scored a lot this year. So you've got Krebs, you've got him, you've got Noah Östlund, who I'm a big believer of, and you've got Matt Savoy. Like you don't need another forward. This forward core is already ridiculous. And yes, there's going to be some misses because there always is some in terms of prospect development, but they've got so much talent. They got to draft the defenseman. I think Simashev is the one, in my opinion.
I'm gonna both agree with everything you guys just said and then take it in a different direction. Absolutely all those things about their forwards, all those things about their need of defensemen. But again, on the board that I'm looking at right now, I've got Ryan Bacher 7, I've got Simashev 10, I've got Sandy Pellick at 12. If any of those guys are still up, Buffalo's taking them at 13. That's what I'm saying. But I'm also saying they're not there. Now, when you turn to the forward core with the Buffalo Sabres, you guys are absolutely right. A lot of hits, a lot of slam dunks, a lot of guys that obviously there's a miss factor with everybody, but a lot of guys that if they translate, they're going to be very good players. So Buffalo at 13, I'm seeing them. This is them rolling the dice, right? They're going to roll the dice on somebody who is in the 20s of a lot of people's drafts, but I think pure talent is a top 10 pick. Edward Shala is my pick for Buffalo at 13. They've got centers, they've got wingers. They do need defensemen, but Shala to me fits the Sabres because it's not like they're going to lean on him. We talked about JJ Paterka, Dylan Cousins, Tage Thompson's there. Jeff Skinner is still only 31 years old, just had a career year at 82 points. Alex Tuck, Krebs, everybody that's there already. It's going to take the pressure off Edward Shala. His toolkit, his vision, his hockey IQ, his shooting, his passing, it's all very, very good. At 6'1", 168, I think the only thing that could improve on is the physical side of it. But the pure skill this guy has makes him a huge boomer bust prospect. And for the Buffalo Sabres, who, again, have all those forwards already, I think they're in the best position to roll the dice on somebody like Shallow. What do you think of him, Jeremy?
Chalet is a player who I'm not a big fan of, but I see the skill. It's undeniable. He's one of the most skilled players that is available now at this point in the draft. Um, he's definitely gonna fall because this year, just watching him, he really struggled on the physical side of things, but also just on the energy, motor, and it felt like he either didn't want to be on the ice or it felt like he didn't know what to do on the ice, which are both worrying. He looked lost at many points this year, just not being there defensively, not being involved at all in the play. And when he got the puck, he did some very, very nice things, especially offensively. I mean, you give him the puck in the offensive zone, he's gonna do something, whether it's a pass, a shot, a deke. He can do it all, but it's been a struggle off the puck for him all year, and there's not going to be a lot of pressure on him if he goes to Buffalo because they've already got all those guys, but he still needs to be assisted, needs to be coached, needs to learn how to play against men, how to translate his game that he's been that he's showing that he's been so successful at against like younger competition at international tournaments. He's very skilled. It's just gonna be a question of getting it translated. The team that drafts him needs to really coach him well, train him well, develop him well, and we'll see how it goes. But very he's a boomer bust. But if he booms, he could become something big for sure.
All right, so Pittsburgh's at 14. You want to go, Jeremy? You want me to go?
I can go. I'll go for Nate Danielson. Nate Danielson is one of my favorite prospects this year. He just looks like a pro. We've talked about age in the draft. He's one of the oldest, and it shows. But I mean, it's not like he's supposed to play the way he's playing, right? He's very very mature for his age. That's because he's old. But that being said, he's a very, very good two-way player, defensively, always there to help. He's very good on transition, carrying the puck. And I mean, we're talking about a center. This guy's a pure center, just like Oliver Moore. I think he really easily could become a second, third line center in the NHL. I think he's a safe bet. I think people are viewing him if people see him as like a risky pick. I'm not seeing it that much. People say he's not that good of a skater. I don't see it that much. Maybe his game is not perfect for the NHL right now. Maybe he takes too much risk. Maybe he takes too much responsibility with the puck in the junior level right now. But I mean, he's going to be an NHL player one way or the other. I think second C or third C is very, very reachable. He's the perfect center in my opinion. At 14, Pittsburgh's going to be very happy with Nate Danielson.
Quick sidebar, not really a sidebar, definitely related to what we're talking about. So Jeremy and I literally just connected with each other over Instagram. He runs if you saw our Instagram story, he runs the Instagram account prospects_report, where he uses all of his scouting acumen to good effect. At the beginning of the season, I watched a lot of Nate Danielson play with the Brandon Wheat Kings when he came through the Red Deer Rebels as PV Mart Centrium. And I was very high on him. I was higher than a lot of other people were. And I would see Jeremy on his Instagram account that I followed posting a lot of positive things about Danielson. The first thing that I actually ever DM'd him about was Nate Danielson. We talked about him, and that's actually how we met each other. So it's fitting that we both have him at 14, actually, Jeremy. I have him at 14 for the Pittsburgh Penguins as well. And yeah, everything you said, I love this guy. I think exactly what you mean. Sorry, I see exactly what you mean about kind of being the perfect centerman. He doesn't do anything. Like, he's not the best at anything in this draft. He's not the best skater, passer, shooter, whatever, but he does everything very well. And I think that is going to translate exactly what you said. It might just be a third line center, but I could totally see him being a top six forward. I could totally see him, for instance, if you look at a team like the Columbus Blue Jackets, he's the perfect guy to play between Gaudreau and Laine. Like, this is who you want in that spot. He's not going to be a third overall pick to Columbus, obviously, but for the Pittsburgh Penguins, who, again, you talked about San Jose having being way overdue for a rebuild. Pittsburgh's in that boat as well. Crosby, Malkin are on the older side. getting somebody who's a slam dunk centerman. We saw how good Jordan Stahl used to do there. Somebody who can be their second line center. Love it for Pittsburgh. 14th overall. Danielson, who I think we both have him a little bit higher than maybe the consensus is, but I know we're both very high on him, and I love that pick for Pittsburgh at 14.
Yeah.
The one thing I wonder about Danielson is like how quickly can he slot in? Because I feel like with Pittsburgh, they're going to take 1 or 2 more years and try and really go at it. They have potentially an aggressive GM who wants to get a shot at the title here, but they really, really need a couple guys on entry level to be able to come in and make a difference. That way they can spend their money elsewhere. Do you think Danielson's that guy who can come in 23-24 or 24-25?
I don't think he's gonna come next year. That wouldn't be the best decision in my opinion. He might be there in 2 years of time as like a third line center. But remember how old he is. We got Dubas, who's probably gonna get told, make that team competitive. We gotta win when Crosby and Malkin are still there and Letang. But since he's so old, there's a good chance he just becomes one of the best players in the WHL next year, becomes a highly touted prospect, and gets traded. It's total possibility. It's if there's a guy who could serve as like a trade asset for next year, it could be Danielson. It's a very, very good possibility. And I wouldn't place him next season, but maybe the season after as like a third line center. Yes. Ideally, I'd keep him 2 years in the WHL minimum. And we'll see what Dubas does. But if he ever comes up to Pittsburgh, he's gonna be there's gonna be good players for him to play with for sure. And I think Pittsburgh makes a lot of sense, whether it's for a trade asset, future trade asset, or just for a second, third line center eventually. He's definitely closer to being NHL ready than not. So it's a pick that makes sense for them.
Yeah, definitely. I really just see that getting him just like you said, it gives them the most value either way. Whether they want to use him, whether they want to trade him, whether they want to wait and just sit on the guy. Like outside of picking Owen Pickering last year, like Samuel Poulin is not much of a prospect anymore. I don't really think they're gonna get much out of him at this point. They really need to just restock that cupboard, whether it's to use for trade or whether to grow for the future. Personally, I lean to a little bit of both. I'd say like it would be nice for them to hold on to a bit, be nice for them to trade a bit off, but I have no idea what they're going to do with this pick if they don't pick Danielson or one of the comparable forwards.
Yeah. I think at 14, there's a chance that just the pick gets traded before they even pick. But I feel like Danielson at 14 is gonna be good for them.
Okay, so if you're listening to the podcast right now, for Jeremy, James, and I, it's going to be a quick break, but for you, it's going to be the end of the first episode. We're going to split this draft episode into a part 1, part 2, basically first and second halves of this first round. We've been talking at you now for an hour and 40 minutes, so I know everybody listening definitely needs a break from our voices. So we're going to step aside, and next episode will be out pretty quickly. So Jeremy, of course, will be back for the second part of this. So Jeremy, we'll thank you at the end, but thank you, of course, for joining us for part 1 of the draft. Hope everybody's enjoying it, and stay posted. The next episode, part 2 of this will be out pretty soon.